Okay, everyone, welcome to tonight's Secondary Schools, Churchill, and the High School AI Parent University night. Really excited to have the parents who are joining us here and those who are able to join us on the live stream to share some really great information, excuse me, and some exciting things we have going on this year to start off the year. This is my name's Herb Palooza. I guess I should start with introductions. Herb Palooza, you've been receiving a lot of emails from me lately, so I appreciate you reading those. I'm the Supervisor of Educational Technology here in East Brunswick. This is my 19th year in the district, which is really exciting. I got my start here at Hammersholt, not in this building, in the original building that used to run alongside Ruse Lane in a little bit of a different configuration as a social studies teacher. And then I moved to the high school to teach different levels of history, everything from AP and all the levels of courses, elective courses and things of that nature, which was a lot of fun. And then I became the instructional coach when we were looking at going one-to-one and doing some investigations of our learning management system, Canvas, that we use now. I was department chair for social studies and media services for 2.5 years. And when this job was created, threw my hat in the ring and presented the vision that we've been able to execute, I think, pretty well over the last year plus. And we're really excited about what we have going on in AI and educational technology here in East Brunswick. A couple things I just want to point out. Here's my contact information up on the slide, and you can see it at home on the live stream as well. All the information that's shared tonight, the slides that I'm going to go through, the video that's the live stream that's being recorded will be available on demand, which will be a great resource for anyone who wasn't able to make it out or wasn't able to make the live stream. I know, I had to race my son to soccer before tonight's event, so I know a lot of folks have stuff going on and totally get that. So if they're unable to be here, you can tell them about the video on demand, and they can always reach out if they have any questions. The AI Center website's right there. You can also just type in EBAI Center on Google, and it's the first result that pops up, which is pretty cool. And then the EdTech website has some other resources there and information that can be very helpful. So I just wanted to point everyone in that direction. So let's jump in and get started. So when we talk about AI, most people think about the first definition that's up there, right? And then, when we think about AI that's started to really impact our society and our world and what our students are using in school, what we're really talking about is generative AI, right? AI that can create content. For years we've had apps like Shazam where you're in CVS picking up something and a song comes on, you're like, I haven't heard this song in a while. What song is this? You click Shazam, and in about 4 or 5 seconds it tells you what song is playing. I know I'm not the only one that likes to do that. It's always a fun game, and like, oh, I was way off, or oh, I knew that was the song. We've had Siri and Alexa and Hey Google for years. I don't want to set anyone's phone off in here. But, we've had artificial intelligence elements for years. We've had different, technologies that use aspects of artificial intelligence. But the generative piece, I think, was one that was really jarring when people could type something into a chatbot and it created something and it seemed like it was thinking and being creative and doing things, making music or writing stories. I think that was pretty jarring for a lot of people. And that's the piece that when we're talking about AI now, I think that's really what most people mean is Gen AI. So I'd like to share these definitions. These are from the state of New Jersey's website, and they're very important. But one of the things that I think are also important as we're having this conversation with parents and with students, with educators and community members, is really, I want people to think of AI as a tool. And just like every one of the tools up there, depending on what problem you're trying to solve is going to also depend on what tool you're going to use to solve it, right? Sometimes you're going to use the pickaxe at the end there always makes me think of the movie Shawshank Redemption and Andy Dufresne trying to chisel through out of the prison. So, I guess if you're trying to do what Andy Dufresne did, you want to use the tool all the way to the left here. Does anyone know what the tool on the right is? Anyone know what that is? That is a glass cutter. That's a glass cutter. So, obviously if you're trying to, do a project where you're trying to, trim down some wood or something, you're not going to use a glass cutter, right? You're not going to use a wrench when you need to use a screwdriver. AI is just like every one of these tools. It's going to be, it's maybe more useful than other tools for multiple projects, but it's not the end-all be-all for, that's going to solve every problem or get you the answer for every, thing that you're trying to solve. But it's a really powerful tool. It can be kind of Swiss Army knife in a way where it has a lot of different aspects to it, but there's no substitute, I think, for your personal creativity and for your voice. But if a tool can help you get there faster, and I think Gen AI has a lot of capabilities to do that, that's a pretty exciting place to be. So I'm going to tell a little story before we jump in, and you might be thinking, what the heck does mustard have to do with AI? Well, I like to share this story because this was what clinched it for me and got me to, there's a problem that involved mustard that made me think, okay, maybe there's something to this AI ChatGPT stuff. So what happened was we were at my house, and I have 3 children, 9, 6, and 4. And, like a lot of nights it's busy. You're trying to make something for dinner. You have all this food. You're like, we're not ordering out. You're like, we're going to make food. And I don't know, somehow maybe over COVID or different sales or barbecues where you get the 3-pack or the 2-pack of like the condiments for a barbecue, the ketchup always goes quick. You use the ketchup very quickly. But you end up with like mustard and relish and things. So somehow we ended up with like 7 mustards at my house. And I had a total like dad moment. I'm like, that's it. We're using the mustard. Like the mustard, I don't care what we do with it. We're going to do something with mustard. We're not wasting it. Total dad moment, right? So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I've never been a really big fan of mustard. We made a lot of spaghetti and meatballs in my house growing up. Used mustard on hot dogs, but what am I going to do with all this mustard? Oh, I know what. I'm going to try this ChatGPT thing, and I'm going to ask it what I can do with this mustard. What do we have in here? We got chicken. I got this. Okay. I have the following items in my fridge, and I have a lot of mustard. What can I make for dinner that's not going to take forever? Please give me 5 suggestions. Click the button, and I get a list of 5 recipes like I asked for, and I was like, wow. This stuff sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. I didn't know mustard. Mustard's a great marinade. You mix it with some balsamic vinaigrette dressing and a couple spices, and it's a pretty quick, simple, easy, and quite tasty dinner. So for me, after that moment, I was like, okay, I think there might be something with this Gen AI, this ChatGPT thing. Like, I don't understand it, but that's really cool. And I think that's something that is a valuable lesson for all of us to think about is, if you're on the fence about this still, I totally respect that, and I think that's a good place to be. I always tell people if you're only excited about AI, you haven't played with it enough. But if you're only skeptical and scared of AI, you haven't played with it enough either. You have to have a little bit of both. And I think that's a survival skill generally in the Northeast here. A little healthy skepticism go a long way. But I think if we all have our mustard moment where we're like, all right, well, even if I just use it for this, how much better is my life going to be? Or how much easier are certain things in my life going to be? And I think when it comes to making dinner and not wasting food, I think that's a good place to start. And for me, it allowed me to continue the journey and try different things and then apply it to work-related problems or helping teachers and improving my workflow and things like that. And for me, I was like, okay, there's definitely something here. This is going to be a powerful, game-changing tool. So I would encourage everyone watching on the live stream and everyone here to find your mustard moment if you haven't already, or afterwards I'd love to hear from some of the folks here what your mustard moment was. So what I want to go through now, before I jump into some of the things that we're doing that I'm really proud of and really excited about, and some things that are getting us some really great attention, in the region. And I was lucky enough to be able to speak at an AI conference in New York City this Saturday with a superintendent in another district in New Jersey, in Randolph, and some other educators in the New York area. And people a lot of districts are saying, well, how did you do this? And we're trying to catch up to where you're getting to. And, can we work together, talk about it? Absolutely. So I'm really excited about what we have going on. But I wanted to start with a little bit of, for parents and folks watching at home, how can I use this, just in my everyday daily life? So I have a couple, 4 or 5 examples I want to share with you, and then some screen capture videos that I took that I think will show you some of the power of what AI can do. And if you're familiar with this stuff, that's great. It's going to be a great refresher. Maybe it'll give you a different take on it. If it's if this is new, or you're like, oh, I never thought to use it, jump on the bandwagon. There's plenty of room, and I think you're going to get a lot of really great information out of this. So when we talk about drafting emails, there's a couple of things that AI can really help you with. Talks about tone, about content, about length. To write a really good email can take a long time. And in my business here as a supervisor, we deal a lot with parents. Sometimes we're emailing students. We're emailing community members. I deal a lot with different vendors. And it can take a long time to make sure I'm asking the right questions, that I'm not going on too long. Your tone sometimes is hard to get right in email. Or I see some nodding, right? That's like, oh, I didn't think I was being sarcastic. Or I didn't think it would be received that way. And sometimes it really wasn't, but it depends sometimes on the mood of the person or what have you. But wouldn't it be great if you could run a draft of your email through an AI tool and you could ask it, check for tone, check for spelling, check for length. This looks a little long. Can you make it one paragraph instead of 2 or 3? And that's absolutely what you can do. And I think one of the examples I'm going to show here has to do with, if you wanted to email one of your child's teachers about a homework grade. And, you can give it as much information or a little bit of information. You can describe the situation. So I want everyone to watch this prompt here, and you'll see the example that I'm going to use to help you craft an email. Write an email for my child's 8th grade history teacher asking about a 0 on the civics homework. I did watch him do it, told me he turned it in. And you see that it creates the email there with about a sentence. And this is Google's Gemini, and in Google's Gemini, you click that button, you can copy the text, and then go to your email, whether it's Gmail, this is Outlook. You paste it right into the email. And if you like the subject, you take that copy, paste it right into the subject. And then the next phase of this is, you add in the important details, right? And you also make sure that the email speaks with your voice. Now, this is a pretty straightforward, direct email. Some emails have more of a, they're more specific. Maybe it's about a more sensitive topic or things like that. So you want to make sure that you're being specific and that this speaks with your voice. I think that's one of the biggest lessons we talk with students about, I talk with the staff about all the time, is that this is great and it saves you a lot of time, but you can't just copy paste it without making some changes. And you have to make sure that the email speaks with your voice, that it sounds like it's coming from you, right? So in that example, you had that's a pretty straightforward request, right? And very quickly sent that email. You can make some changes, add your child's name, make sure the salutations, if you're not somebody that uses warm regards or best, maybe you just like to do thank you at the end. Make sure it sounds like you still. But that's a pretty powerful time saver right there. Now, another example, about the revise email. Sometimes, we have situations that, can be very frustrating as a parent. Sometimes we may feel like, our children aren't being heard in class, or maybe a situation where a grade wasn't given fairly, or that a 0 was given and you're very upset. And I want to make this clear that I think that, we want to be honest and direct with teachers and with administrators about how we feel. But we also want to make sure that we're getting closer to a resolution, right? And sometimes when we fire off that angry email, it might feel good in that moment, but I know I've done 1 or 2 of those emails, and in the moment you're like, yeah, all right, I really told them. And then you kind of calm down afterwards, and you're like, that wasn't really helpful. Like, that's not really going to get us closer to a resolution. There's a way to be honest and direct, but not go too far, right? So I want to encourage everyone, always be direct. Be honest, be straightforward, but I think that when we have respectful communication, especially when we're talking about trying to help our children through whatever difficulty or struggle or situation they're in, when we have that respectful, cordial, and direct communication, we can really, really make a difference, and we can really help get children what they need. So, I want to show this example, but I wanted to preface it with that comment, because I do think that that's important. So here's an example of me venting a little bit to ChatGPT. I'm very upset, fix it now, and I ask it to revise it. So it goes through and, I hope this message finds you well. I understand that sometimes technical issues and misunderstandings can occur, or maybe the mistake was made, right? So it cleaned up that anger, or that just kind of raw feeling and emotion, and it cleaned it up a little bit for me. And it allowed me to, once again, go back in, copy, paste it. I can make some edits. For the sake of time, I didn't do as many edits as maybe I would to kind of throw in some specifics about a situation, but I wanted to give everybody kind of an idea of how it can, you can go from like a 10 on the anger scale and get it down to, like a 3, or I think a 3 is fine for this, or a 4, where you want to make sure that the 0 gets corrected if it was a mistake, or maybe there was a difference of opinion about how the homework was supposed to be done, or you can get to a resolution for this situation pretty quickly without it escalating. The other thing I wanted to mention about these situations and encourage folks to do, as much as this is about AI, is if an email, if 1 or 2 emails back and forth with a teacher or supervisor isn't getting a resolution fast, I think the next email should be, let's set up a time to talk on the phone. And I found that that's a big, big thing, whether I'm having communication troubles with one of my colleagues or teacher, and we're just trying to connect on the thing and emails aren't working. It's like, hey, what's a good time to give you a call? And it's like, oh yeah, we're good. Okay, here's the thing I meant to send you, or here's the idea that we had, and this is what okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to throw that in there as well. And I'm a big believer in a blend of the old school with the new school. But I think this is a really powerful tool at our disposal to keep the temperature at a place where we can be productive and helpful and help kids and help each other. Sometimes a grade gets put in, a 0 by mistake, the teacher's putting that grade in. Sometimes there's a different issue, but we want to keep that communication cordial and helpful. This is a different example. I think I skipped a slide here. Hold on. Here we go. So one of the other things on that list was about communications with credit card companies, or in this case, like a property manager. So let's say that you have a leaky sink, and you're in your apartment, and you want to try to get the property manager to fix it. Well, this is Copilot. You saw ChatGPT in the last example, and in Copilot, I basically explained in one sentence. I live in my apartment's leaky. The sink hasn't been fixed. I'm using towels to sop up the leak, but can you help me? And I asked ChatGPT to help me write that email, and boom. I have urgent request to fix the leaky sink. The property manager there listed, very simple message, cordial. I asked it in the prompt, be polite but direct. A leaky sink can cause a lot of damage, germs and other things is very inconvenient. So communications like this, I think, are another area. One of the other things that was listed there before was, communicating with the cable company or a fraudulent charge. A lot of credit card companies have those things through the websites. If you have trouble with articulating those points or getting them refined, these tools are fantastic for that. And you can see how quick and easy, with a few adjustments, you have that email ready to go, and you can communicate very easily. So whether it's your child's teacher, your property manager, the mortgage company, the credit card company, Comcast, or Verizon, or whoever it is, these tools can really help us with our communication and help us, instead of spending all this time writing an email, you give it 1 or 2 sentences and it prepares that email for you, which is really cool. Okay, a couple more examples. This is a big one, homework assistance for kids, and you'll see I included an example I used not that long ago with my 4th grade daughter doing mental math, which is pretty cool. So homework assistance, when we're talking about getting guiding questions or even project ideas, one of the big things I've talked with parents about, and even students about this when it comes to Gen AI, is using the tool to help us find the answers, but not having it do the work for us. And I think there's a big difference between those things. These tools can be really helpful planning, outlining tools, generating ideas. Hey, I have an idea for this project. Does this sound good? What if I try this? Will this work? Are there any examples? And there's a difference between doing that and write me a 5-paragraph essay on the fall of Rome or whatever it is, and then trying to copy paste it and say that that's your work. So I think that this is one of the areas for parents where you're like, look, I came up as a history teacher. I know some things about technology, right? My wife is a math teacher. So I think we have those 2 subject areas pretty well covered. But even in those situations, we're not in the classroom, we're not sure exactly how the teacher is teaching all the specifics about how to do certain problems or about meiosis or whatever it might be in science class. But you could use AI to help you help your child. And you'll see some prompting techniques I use, like how can I help my child with their homework without just giving them the answer? And you put that right into the chatbot, and it'll walk you through it. So I'm excited to show you a couple of those examples. And then, I did my mustard bit before, so you'll see a couple, there's some food examples there. I always say be careful, trust but verify is gonna be one of the phrases I use when it comes to content and when it comes to food. Like, it says, different dietary needs, always consult doctors, and I'm not that kind of doctor, right? So consult with professionals and all that before you make any, if it makes any kind of drastic or odd, suggestions. Always check on those things. It's very important. So, you want to fact check everything, but it can get you some really great information, and you'll see that in a second. So those are two more areas. So here's one, an Algebra 1 problem that I talked to to some of the math teachers and got a couple problems and used Claude, which is another AI tool. Help me assist my child in Algebra 1 answer this question without doing the problem for them. Copy and paste or typed in the problem there. And so far you see hopefully all the different AI tools do it a little bit differently, a little bit of a different interface. So it gives you directions to help your child with this problem, ask them to identify the important information, discuss the concept, give them time to guide them to set up the equation, help them with the unit conversion if needed, encourage them to perform the calculations, remind them about rounding. And then I was going to stop the video at the end right here, but then when I saw, would you like any specific suggestions for explaining any of these steps? And I said, yes. And you'll see, I was like, you know what? Let's see what happens. Yes, let's ask it to explain those steps in more detail. Took me a couple seconds to type that. Yes, please provide those examples or explanations. And not a great prompt, but you'll see that the answer is certainly better than my prompt. And it walks you through how to work through that problem and how to help your child solve that problem step by step. What do they mean by step 1? What do they mean by discussing the average speed, the unit conversion? So you can sit right next to your child. They're going to do the work. They're going to be going step by step. You're not giving them the answer, but you're helping them get closer to the answer. And you see, in every one of the Gen AI tools, you have a different ability to copy and paste right into a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc or an email box, a message box. So as I said, I had the opportunity. I was preparing these things. My daughter then had her homework, and she's very frustrated. Got done soccer practice, and she dances, and she's involved in 17 different things. And I'm like, all right, we should be getting ready for bed. Like we got to wrap this up. And but I'm like, all right, I want to do the problem for her. Let me practice what I preach. I always feel like in leadership, whenever you give a suggestion to someone, you're usually given within 24 to 48 hours an opportunity to follow your own advice. And I took it here, followed my own advice. So this is on my personal Gmail or Gemini account. This is Google's AI tool. I asked it, what is mental math? And I was looking at my daughter's workbook and the online resources in Envision to make sure that things matched up, that it wasn't giving me some different information about mental math than was in the book. And then I'm scrolling down, I'm like, use mental math to answer this question. I gave it this specific question about the differing speeds between Venus and Mars. So it gave me some information, and it gave me some time also to, I'm not going to lie, I was like trying to calm her down a little bit and be like, hey, honey, it's going to be fine. Like, don't worry, don't get frustrated. We're going to help you. Look, let's read the problem again, right? And then, how can I help my fourth grader do this problem without giving her the answer? And just like in the other one, step by step. And by the time I got to step like 2.5, she goes, oh, okay, I got it. Let me try. Can I just try? Yeah, good. Yeah, please, go ahead. She finishes the problem, and I have my notes there, and she's like, oh, thanks so much, Dad. I'm like, yeah, of course. No problem. I got this. We're good, right? And, she went to bed happier. got the problem correct, and remembered all the stuff we talked about. So you think about, I was really excited about that because, when we get to the Algebra 1 stuff, if Mrs. Palooza's not home, I think I'm going to be relying on this one pretty big to help out in some of those areas. So dinner ideas. This is Perplexity, another one of the Gen AI tools. So I gave it a prompt about, these are the things I have in my fridge. What can I make for dinner? 3 recipes. One of the cool things about this tool is it gives you the sources right across the top. So that's one of the great things about Perplexity, the quick sourcing. You can also get the sources from Copilot and also get sources from Gemini, but you have to click, sometimes you have to click an extra button or ask to present them. Perplexity puts it right at the top for just about every search that you do. You also don't have to create an account with Perplexity if you don't want to, and it kind of has a feel, it feels like a search engine 2.0. And I'll talk a little bit about the different specific Gen AI tools in a second. At the bottom, it has alternative questions, and that one was about, are there any vegetarian suggestions for those recipes? And it provides several of them in the list there. So it's pretty cool with some of the things that you can do. And like I said, it's not just about the hard-hitting like mental math or Algebra 1 or, zeros on homeworks. Sometimes it's just like trying to get your dinner cooked and not eat another takeout or something unhealthy and not, I hate throwing away food. I just hate throwing away food, and this can help us with that. So gluten-free, I kept going. You can get all kinds of suggestions, and the biggest mistake people make when they're prompting is that a lot of times if they don't get the answer they want on the first prompt, they stop and they say, all right, well, this thing doesn't work. Well, I always say, well, when you Google something, if you don't get the right answer, you either keep clicking to different pages or you refine your search, right? I was looking for, I typed in Chipotle and it gave me the closest Chipotle restaurant. It's like, well, what were you looking for? I was looking for a Chipotle chicken recipe. Well, you got to tell it that. You got to refine your search. It's the same idea with Gen AI tools. If you don't get the answer you're looking for or you don't get a good response, refine that prompt. Try again. Ask the question a different way. And the last one is work-related tasks. Depending on what kind of work that you do, if you're in meetings a lot, sometimes I write my notes out. I have like a legal pad. I'll jot notes down. Sometimes I'll type the notes. It depends. If I've been staring at a screen all day, sometimes I like to give myself a break. Other times it's just easier and efficient. I can kind of go back and check my notes. So if you have if you have a bunch of work meeting notes, or maybe we recently are working on some renovations on our home and jot a lot of notes down from different things, or when you're trying to organize with kids' sports and activities and different obligations that they have, you take a lot of notes. You can take a picture of written notes, and a tool like Gemini will refine them and organize them digitally for you. Or if you have your notes written in like a Word doc or something, or a Google Doc, you can copy paste them into a tool like Gemini and then ask it, take my meeting notes, the Q2 management meeting. I was pretending I was a financial executive in this, and have it organize those notes. So it took all those like rough notes of just paragraph, and it bullet pointed them and organized them very neatly and nicely. And this is Google's Gemini tool. Tell me when the next meeting was. And then with Google Gemini, you can do the copy option, or if it's linked to your Gmail account, you can export it right into Google Docs in your Google Drive, which is pretty cool. So, and you can ask it to refine it in different ways. I asked it to organize it a couple different ways, and it has all that information there, which is really cool. So I say all that to say, and I'm good, like right at the midway point, excellent. One of the big things I talk a lot with the staff about, and my colleagues, and we're starting to talk with the students about this too. Think of Gen AI as a thought partner, and think of Gen AI as a work partner. There's a lot of grunt work and a lot of things like the emails and all that stuff that we do, that a lot of us do as part of our jobs, that and part of our work and part of our communication with the sports teams and the activities and religious obligations and other things and organizations that we're part of. And sometimes with those things, I think that the Gen AI has a really great practical use to help us with a lot of the different work that we're doing. I think that when we're trying to solve problems, that's the one that sometimes throws people off a little bit, starting to think of this as a thought partner. But we all have people in our lives, if we're lucky, that we can pick up the phone and call, or we can email, and we can say, I'm trying, or sit down, like here at work, I have a bunch of people. Ms. Shay's here is one of my best thought partners I have that works in district here, and we'll sit down and we'll kick around ideas, and we'll say, I had this idea. What do you think? Well, did you think about this? Have we thought about that? All right, let's go back. Let's see what the data tells us, right? And we talk out problems. One of the nice things about Gen AI is you can do the same thing with Gen AI, and it will give you ideas, it'll give you suggestions based on all the vast knowledge and information it has access to. And what I've found is whether I'm looking at survey data, whether I'm looking at taking parent surveys or discussions I've had, and punching that information in. When I get the information crunched by Gen AI, it tells me what are the common themes in a survey, what are the outlier opinions, all that stuff. Then I can go back to someone like Ms. Shay and I can say, it was really interesting what the AI bot said about this or that. Like, it got me thinking, what are your thoughts on this? Like, does this make sense to you? And a lot of times it will enrich our conversations far more than, and it'll get us to a place where maybe we would have gotten, but it gets us there in half the time, right? And time is the most precious, valuable asset we have. And when we're talking about working in a school district, the faster we can get to solutions for problems, the better it is for the kids, for the students, for the staff, for our administrative team, right? And we can move on to other things and start organizing, planning, and all that stuff. So I think that that's something that maybe is a little uncomfortable for some folks initially, but when you jump on board and you try it out with a couple of different things you're trying to work through, I think once again, similar to the mustard situation, you start to say, all right, there's something to this, and it's pretty cool. I think it's important not to forget the human element and to use that information to then enrich your relationships and your work situation and your analysis of data and planning, to use it in that situation and not to forget that piece of it, right? So let's talk about some of the tools that we've been talking with students about and with teachers about at the secondary level. And if anyone has any questions, for the folks that are here, definitely we'll have time for anyone's questions. For anyone that's on the live stream, we don't have a chat feature in the live stream, but please reach out on email or you can take a look at the website, some contact information and resources are there, and you can always follow up with me after. So all the tools up here, with the exception of Meta AI. We haven't talked about Meta AI with students and with teachers as far as use in school. I put Meta AI on this list with all of you and with the folks at home because I think it's actually, if you haven't tried an AI tool yet, that's probably going to be the first one that you're going to use. And so I think it's important to include that as we talk about that with the community and with parents. So right now in our schools, Copilot and Gemini, Copilot is Microsoft's AI tool, and Gemini is Google's AI tool. Those are the two approved tools for use by staff in our district. The tool that's approved for student use, for students 13 and up, 7th grade through 12th grade, is Copilot. When you're logged in on your EBNet account, you can use both of those tools safely. There's extra safeguards and firewalls in place. When you're logged in on your Gmail account or an Outlook account that's personal, anything you type into the chatbot gets put back into the large language model and can be used to strengthen or enhance the chatbot's ability to think through problems and learn. When you use those two tools with the EBNet account, or if your workplace subscribes to a Microsoft Enterprise account or a Google Enterprise account, what they do is they create a firewall around that information so that it's protected from going into the large language model. So for our purposes here, both of those tools are what we talk about using. And when it comes to kids, Copilot is the one that we talk about. Microsoft has assured us that they have put the right safeguards in place so that for users 13 and up, that it can be COPPA compliant, and COPPA is one of the federal regulations that we have protecting children online privacy. Google is not quite there yet with regards to COPPA compliance, but they are there at the point where they say, employees of school districts or private company or public company enterprise accounts where that information can be protected. I think Google is not that far behind from doing that, but until they give us their assurances, we're going to play it safe. And we're going to make sure that we, protecting student data, staff data, that's our first priority before we look at any ed tech tool. We have some teachers who are requesting tools. We have a process for that, and that's one of the first questions before we even, yes, of course we care about how cool a tool is and how great it is for learning. But if it doesn't follow those regulations and it doesn't protect data, then we got to look at something else, because that's what's important. So Gemini and Copilot, right? If you're logged in your EBNet account, those are our top two go-tos. However, there are other tools out there. The other tools up here, like I said, with the exception of Meta AI, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT. There's another one for teachers that we talk about called Magistro, which has some really great capabilities. But those are the ones that are approved for pilot use. So you can create an account with a personal email, and you can use those to do the prompting and find some great tools. And everyone has a favorite who's been using this, and those who haven't found a favorite have found Google's Gemini and Microsoft's Copilot to be really, really strong tools. For my work, what I do is I kind of have a tab open with all of them. I'm one of those people that has more tabs open in their browser than they should. I see a couple people nodding. You hear me on that one. And when the browser starts to slow down, I'm like, maybe I don't need that tab open anymore. But I'll ask the same question to 2 or 3 different tools, and sometimes it's like, well, they all gave a pretty good answer. I get to pick which one I like. But these are the tools that are approved for use or for pilot use. What Meta AI is doing is really cool. If you have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, that search bar at the top, if you haven't noticed this yet, next time you go on, you're going to be like, oh, that Herb guy, now I see it. You'll see the Meta symbol, and whether you're searching for an old friend on Facebook, or if you're asking a question that's about a current event that's going on, or who's winning the Mets and Phillies game, or what have you, it's not going to. What it will do is it will generate a response for you the same way that those other Gen AI tools will, and that's a pretty cool feature to have. So these are some suggestions there. If you have a Gmail account, you can access Gemini. You have a Gemini account. If you have the Google app on your phone, you have Gemini already. You don't need to download a new app. Even when you Google something and you're not signed in, sometimes Gemini will auto-generate a response depending on what the topic is. Perplexity, you don't need to create an account, so that's another one that people sometimes start with. You can go to it just like Google. Each of these programs have paid versions, and obviously with the paid versions, there's different features, and you might have seen with the Claude example, it told me I only had 4 searches left. So those are some of the things that sometimes that they'll throttle down certain usage elements of it. Claude and ChatGPT, you have to create an account to use it. Some people don't want to create accounts. ChatGPT will ask you for your cell phone number for multi-factor authentication. If you're not comfortable doing that, then once again you have Perplexity and you have some other options there. But I would encourage everyone on the live stream and folks here, take the leap. Pick one. Start playing around. If you've played with 1 or 2 of these and you haven't heard of the others, try one of the other ones out. See what you like about it, see what you don't like about it, and try some of those things that we talked about using to help your kids or help you with different issues or problem solving and things of that nature. All right, let's get into a little bit of the meat and potatoes of what we're doing with guidelines and the AIU scale, and some things I'm really excited about. So last year, one of the first things when I took the job, and I was, I'm very thankful for Dr. Valesky, Dr. Boley, our assistant superintendent of academics, and the Board of Education for creating this position and supporting the educational technology department. And when I was lucky enough to be given the honor to have the job, one of the things I told Dr. Boley was, I don't want to just make decisions in isolation. I don't want to be like, there's a lot more that we need to learn about this, and we need to bring the team together. We need to bring we have really bright, smart teachers, specialists, media specialists. We have a lot of talent in this district, and I think that it's important that we bring people together and we talk about what we're excited about, what we're a little bit afraid of, and how we can work together to make the right decisions and do what's best for kids and for teachers. So what we did was we formed AI working groups, and there was an AI working group for the K-4 level, at least one representative from all 8 of the K-4 elementary schools. We had a team here at Hughes that was made up of at least one person from each department and across grade levels. We had a team at Churchill, same idea, different subject areas, grade levels, and at the high school, we did the same thing. And what I did was I tried to meet with them 4 to 5 times over the course of the year. We also had Canvas courses in Google Classrooms where we would communicate on occasion, share articles, do some work kind of through those platforms and work efficiently that way. And that would enrich the work when we were able to get together. And what we did through that work was that work and those discussions, the real work that was done in those sessions allowed us to plan out this overview of what we were going to do for this year. So what you see here is a direct result. I don't want to, it's not just me, it's a team effort here in East Brunswick. We work together, we get our smart people, and by the way, on these teams, it wasn't just people who were like total AI, believers. I said, look, I want people who are skeptical. I want people who have questions. I want people who are skeptical and have questions but are interested in finding solutions and we're going to help us strengthen our policies and our guidelines going forward. And I think we did a really great job, and we're continuing that work into this year. So we're here tonight to talk about the secondary. So, you'll see in the elementaries, mostly teacher-facing, awareness, literacy, all things that we're going to do, and we are doing at the secondary level as well. The difference with the secondary level is that the kids are exposed to this, they already know about it, they have accounts, they're supposed to ask for parents' permission before they sign up for ChatGPT, Claude, or any of these other things. I'm sure all of your children here did that and asked your permission before they created those accounts. According to the terms of service, they're supposed to, but maybe not everybody did. So we said we have to be a little bit more aggressive about our approach and put some rules in place and put some guidelines in place so that it's not a free-for-all and we're learning how to use these things properly. It's not going anywhere. Some of the early research is showing that students who are using these tools and learning how to use them effectively are getting edges in college searches and in the job world. So, and the kids that aren't, some of those achievement gaps are going to continue to grow. And we don't want that. We want every one of our children, regardless of what their learning needs are, where they're at academically, we want them all to have all the tools that they need to succeed. So at the secondary level, we worked on something called an AI use scale. This research has been going on for about a year. It's been a really strong community and a really strong part of the AI community talking about how to generate the rules and how do we have a scale. So I'm going to show you that in a couple seconds, but that's something that we worked on in the working groups instituted this year and are really proud of. We updated our guidance. We had guidance documents to start last year that I think were pretty good. But we took the work of the working groups, we took student feedback surveys. I went to principals' counts at the high school multiple times, had conversations with the student leaders. This year we sent out surveys for students to join the Next Gen AI teams to continue those conversations. They're going to be hearing from me in the next week or two. If any of your children are interested on the live stream or that are here in person, tell them to go on to the AI Center website. The form is up there. We're accepting any kind of feedback, ideas, and also interest in joining the Next Gen AI team. Good thing to put on the college transcript also. So we're going to have a Churchill team and a high school team. And the other thing that we're looking at this year, we started to have some conversations about this last year, but we're going to really kick this into second gear this year, is talking about the idea of a student digital code of conduct. That's not just talking about AI, but talking about the kind of digital and physical community we want kids to live in and to learn in. And it's not just about AI, but it's about, some of the, I'm talking about a lot of positive things that come with AI, but we know that it's not all positive. With any tech advancement, there's some drawbacks. Misinformation, some of the deep fakes. There's been some news stories about students who've used some of these tools inappropriately and really embarrassed some of their classmates. And at one of the principals' councils, we talked a little bit about this. And, so like we need to identify what kind of community we want to live in and we want to learn in. how we treat each other. We talk about this all the time in the physical classroom, but the digital space, our kids live in the digital space as well. So the idea with that is, let's talk about what we want that to look like. Let's give kids a seat at the table. We're here because of the kids. And sometimes I feel like they don't feel like that they have a real seat at the table. And I told them last year and continuing to tell them this year, as long as I'm in this job, you have a seat at this table because this is about you, what's best for you. We want to do this together. So these are some of the things that we're really excited about with regards to this secondary. First thing we'll talk about a little bit is the guidance. These documents are on the AI Center website. There's a student guidance and staff guidance. There's guidance documents for students and staff at Hughes, and there's a staff guidance document for our K-4 teachers as well. Once again, tonight we're focusing on the secondary. So these are zoomed in. I didn't want to try to make everyone read the small print on the other slide there. So you can see at the top there, it starts with kind of a statement of, what we believe about Gen AI. We believe it can be a force for good, that it can enhance learning. But we also know that there needs to be some core principles, and we're not going to ban AI, but here's the roadmap a little bit about what we believe. So for staff, we talk about specific things like using the AI use scale, that we're going to have clear identifiers of when AI is appropriate to use and when we're going to ask students not to use it. And that scale is going to be really important. We have academic integrity statements. The University of Penn put together a really great website for their professors to, kind of different models and ideas for them to put in their syllabus documents for their courses. And that's been one of the things that I've had a lot of teachers say, those were really good statements. I modified, and I was like, you could even use AI to modify some of those statements a little bit. But make it sound like your voice. What do you believe about in your class? What's the class culture that you're looking for? And a lot of teachers have said that those were really helpful. So trying to give teachers the resources they need. I'm not trying to micromanage what they're doing. We're not trying to tell them this is exactly what it needs to look like. But the biggest piece of feedback last year from staff and students was that both groups wanted clearer rules and clearer identifiers of where the guardrails were. So the guidance that you see here for staff is a direct result of that feedback, both verbal. We did a lot of qualitative research and discussions. I talked with a lot of people, K-12. We did surveys, and it was really interesting to see the similarity between the staff and the students in what they were asking for. Here you can see some additional tools. How to cite the use of AI, MLA, and APA citations. You see, we use Turnitin.com, which has an AI detection tool. Now, one of the things I've been telling the teachers, and I'm being transparent, is that experts in these tools. So Turnitin.com, there's another company called CopyLeaks, which is kind of a Turnitin competitor. And at an AI summit that I was at a high school in North Jersey, the representative from CopyLeaks said, we have maybe another 1.5 to 2 years where AI detection tools work. And then after that, it's going to be hard for those detection tools to work because there will be so much AI-generated content out there on the internet. And it will be hard for those tools to differentiate and identify. So what that says to me is, number one, I think we should use the tool right now. I think that that's an appropriate and a good idea. But it also reinforces for me the cultural discussion about academic integrity and the importance of setting the rules and the guidelines. That's an important piece of this too, because we're not going to always be able to catch everybody using these tools either. So, and maybe that will change. Maybe we'll get different information, but I think that that's a good assumption to continue to make. There's staff resources, equity and communication. One of the big I think criticisms of AI is that it does at times exhibit some bias. It does have some equity issues at times. Sometimes it can be really forward-thinking and progressive when it comes to those things. Other times, depending on how the prompt is worded, who some of the developers are behind some of the prompts, that's one of those areas that we have to be careful. So important guidance for staff and students about that has been critical, just to make sure that, if you're using an image generator or if you're asking a question, depending on how you ask a prompt, it might skew the response. If it's political, it might lean more to the left or the right, and you may have to check the source information so that you know where you're getting the information from. Just like when you read news sites, you have to understand where you're getting the information from. So, you may ask it to generate an image of your classroom, and you may get the image, and it may not look like your classroom. So you have to be a little bit more specific sometimes if you want to get it to do that. And there's other times where I've seen image generators do a great job without needing a lot of prompting. Just like people, these tools are imperfect. So we have to educate. We have to make sure that people are aware of that. Planning, assessment, differentiation, support, all important stuff. The guidance for students, rather. So this is not just about AI. This is about ed tech as well. I didn't want to make this as, all about AI and anything scary about, that. I wanted to talk about it in the context of all technology. So, and we do it in a Q&A format, talking about ethical use and appropriate use of various tools. And then you'll see some of the similarities. Well, are students allowed to use ed tech and AI tools for school assignments? It depends, right? Talk to your teacher. Here's the AIU scale. Here's more details about using AI tools that redirects to resources that are on the AI Center webpage that are specific for students. The citation guide, a lot of similar communication for both the staff and the students, because the idea is to really make sure that they understand what the expectation is, and they can talk about it together and be honest about it and not try to pretend that this thing isn't happening and that these tools don't exist, right? Remember these points before using AI. And the last piece there, when in doubt, be honest. Talk to your teachers. It's really, really important. One of the big things with these guidance documents, right, is to make sure that we're having the conversations, we're talking about these things. I think that that's really, really important. And so far, look, it's hard to bat 1,000 on any of these things, but I feel like we've set up the structures that have allowed for those things to happen. And, we're going to get better in a lot of those areas, but I feel like that these have really set some good foundational principles. And being that it's the second full year that we've had with guidance, the first full year with our AIU scale, I think we're really excited about the progress that we're making. And I think that getting more voices involved, having parents come out, watch on the live stream, having students on those next-gen AI teams, continuing the AI working groups with the staff, I think is going to be really critical and important for us to continue to take those next steps. So as I said before, we have the Hughes guidance and the K4 guidance. I would encourage you to take a look at those and kind of see how we're building up to the secondary, but we'll save a lot of that for the elementary parent university next week. So this is the AIU scale that I was talking about before. There's a researcher out of Australia, Leon Furs, who started posting about this on LinkedIn about just under a year ago, and kind of started this global conversation with other folks in ed tech or in positions like mine, supervisors or directors of ed tech around the country. And his original draft of this had a 5-tier system. And one of the things I brought it to, there was the Churchill AI Working Group in probably March or April of last year. So they're the first group that I had a chance to sit down with as I was diving more into this research. And I said to them, what do you all think of this? This is pretty neat. And they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I said, well, let's take a look at this and let's work for the next, 30 minutes, and let's see if we can start the beginnings of a rough draft of what do you think this should look like for Churchill? What are some points or what are some values that would be really helpful as a Churchill teacher? And we have math, we have science, we have history, we have health, we have practical arts, we have everybody here represented. Let's, we got music, we have art. Let's try to do something that, it's not just the math department or the social studies department, but something that will work for everybody. And they put together rough draft notes, and I said, okay, I'm going to the high school in a week or two for their working group. I'm going to share these notes with them, and we're going to kind of do a combo effort on the Google Doc on this. And they were really excited. High school group opened it up. I said, all right, here's what the Churchill team did so far. What do you all think? What do we think? Same diverse group of folks together, put together some of their notes, kind of drafted some alternative versions. And between those two groups, they were like, a 5-tier seems like a lot. Maybe, could we do it in 4? All right, let's give it a shot. And we played around with different configurations. We even tried a 3-tier. Ultimately, all the notes that we gathered together, the team, and it made me feel pretty good. A lot of the team members in the working groups basically said, all right, Herb, like, we trust you to kind of take all our notes, distill it down, like, put together a second draft or close to final draft, and if we get to meet again at the end of the year, we'll take a look, we'll make notes, email it out to us, and we'll, before we leave for the end of the year, give you some time to talk with some other experts and see what you think about this. And this is kind of what we landed on, and I'm really proud of it. I think it encompasses all the different scenarios, everything from the fact that we wanted to make it clear to students that maybe using AI is not always a good idea. And there's going to be times that your teachers ask you not to use it, and they're going to do that because they have a good reason. There's sometimes it's important for you to just think, and the thought struggle is part of the learning experience. And that's okay. We don't want you to struggle so much that you disengage from the work, but we want you to struggle because that is a part of the learning process, right? All the way to AI powered, where we say, okay, make sure you cite it, but you could use these AI tools as long as you cite the use and you do it properly. In certain cases, we're going to say go all the way to level 3. And then the levels 1 and 2 are good for kind of a stopgap, that there's a point where you can say you can use it up to this point. You can use it to outline for your outline. You can use it to generate ideas, but everything after that, we want you to use your brains. We want you to use the strategy we talked about in class. I actually am very excited. We just got a grant approved by the East Brunswick Education Foundation for 350 of these use-scale magnets that are going to go in every classroom at Churchill and the high school. So it's a 19 by 15 magnet, and then the stoplight over there, which, by the way, I'm going to disclose here, that was AI generated. I used AI, asked it to create an image of a bear holding a stoplight, because there was a couple schools, I believe in North Carolina, who used the stoplight, and I was like, that'd be pretty cool. If we could get a bear. The bear pictures that got cropped out where the scale is now were a little silly and goofy, and were funny but not helpful for this. But I liked that the paw was around the bottom, and some people have said, why blue at the bottom? Like, I toyed around with the idea of a green turn signal, like with the arrow, and I said, a couple of schools I saw had like a blue infinity kind of underneath the red, the yellow, and the green light. And I was like, well, I don't know if infinity is really where I don't think we're there yet. I don't know if that's really East Brunswick at this point with our thoughts on AI. But I like the idea of like a blue light, and I joked around. I always joke with people, and some have heard me say, like, I'd love to have a jetpack. It would be easier for me to travel to all the 11 of the schools in the admin building for meetings and evaluations. If I had a jetpack, it might be easier to get around with traffic. So maybe someday when we all have jetpacks, the blue light will be like, okay, jetpacks, you can go, or something like that, or flying cars like in Back to the Future. So, we had a little fun with it. We're having fun with the present. We're having fun with the future. So this is something that I'm really excited about. Those are on order now, and hope to be up in all the classrooms soon. And there's going to be the EB bear face. They measured it out so that it fits in the stoplights, so the teacher can put the bear face on whichever level is appropriate for that assignment in class. So we're really excited to provide those tools for teachers and for students. All right, I think I'm right at 8 o'clock, or just about, so, and I want to leave time for questions. So a couple things I want to leave you with here, right? Embrace the challenges, but then also embrace those opportunities. I hope that everybody on the live stream and the folks who are able to join us in person come away feeling a little bit more confident about using some Gen AI tools, and come out with some more questions too, and thinking through the process and ways that you feel empowered to help your kids and help yourself with the various different challenges that you have going on. It's hard, right? Adulting is tough, as they say, but it can be a lot of fun, and I think that with these AI tools, there's some opportunities to help us with the numerous things we have to do. So embrace the challenges and opportunities. Talk to your kids. I think that honesty, being transparent about AI is important, about the appropriate use of AI, the same way that we should be talking about social media. about respecting each other, themselves, their classmates, their teachers. I think that that's a really important piece of this is, being honest, asking them questions, and making sure that they know that you know about this stuff now, I think is really, really important. Trust but verify. I was a history guy before I was a technology person, and President Reagan used to say trust but verify, talking about the Cold War. I think it's an appropriate phrase when we're talking about AI. Talked about hallucinations a little bit before, about how AI is not infallible. So you have to trust the results but verify them. Make sure that you're getting accurate information. Equity and representation, talked about that as well. These are things that are important to be aware of. If you get a result that doesn't hit you the right way, I think that's important to kind of investigate that and make sure that your kids are aware of that. And that's something that we talk with teachers a lot about as well, before we just copy and paste and use it in any kind of assignment, or if students are going to copy paste and use it as why that's not a good idea. One of the reasons is because of equity, representation, and misinformation as well. Make sure that the content speaks with your voice. I talked about that with the emails. That's a really critical piece. You still want your voice and your ideas to come through. So I talk with the students about that a lot. That's a really critical piece. Use these tools, but make sure that it's still you that people are hearing, right? Be careful when you share any personally identifiable information. I talk about this a lot with the staff, that if we use this for different purposes, responding to emails, to make sure you take anybody's name out. If you're using Gemini or Copilot with your EBNet account, there are some built-in protections and scrubbing of information and things. But even on those tools, I've told people, we take out any information, any personally identifiable information. You don't need to share that. You can just put, you can put T for teacher, C for child, or S for student, whatever, and that way we're not sharing. A lot of our information's out there. There's been big hacks and things. Some of us have gotten 6 text messages asking you to verify a package that was delivered to your house, and you shouldn't click on it. If it's Amazon or something, go to Amazon's website. Or those phone calls you get, and you're like, yeah, sure, here's my social security number, right? You don't want to do those things. So personally identifiable information, it's already out there, too much of it. Don't give away any more of the store, right? And privacy settings are important. Children under 13 should not create any accounts on these things. And anyone who, I think that if you are going to allow your child to do that, you should be aware of those things and have the conversation about that. Similar to if you don't want them on social media, talk with them honestly about it. If you don't want them creating accounts on this, talk with them honestly. Or even if you're going to let them, set some of your own guidelines. Use our guidelines as a start, but maybe set your own guidelines as well with your kids. So anyone who's watching on the live stream, and for the folks that are here, I have a feedback survey. I want to thank everyone, first of all. Thank you for coming out. I know, like I said, I know this is a busy time of year. Every time of year is a busy time of year. But, I really do appreciate you joining on the live stream, or if you're watching this on demand afterwards, appreciate you taking the time to watch this. You could be watching playoff baseball or football or something. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I really appreciate the folks who were able to make it out. If you could take a few minutes to fill out the feedback survey. It's a few questions, and mainly just asking for people to share any additional questions that you have. And sometimes it's like, I should have asked that while he was there. Sometimes on the ride home, when you're not thinking or something's playing on the radio, that's when those good questions come. So you can go back on. I will put the link to this survey on the AI Center website, or if you want to capture the QR code there, you can feel free to leave me any feedback, or you can always email me afterwards. I think that it's really important. I'm really proud of the work we've been doing. It's been getting recognized in the region, and I think that's a real testament to the hard work of the teachers, the staff, our administrative team. We have a really smart team at all levels here in East Brunswick, support from our awesome board and our great central office team, and we're really proud of that. But we're here for kids, and we're here to serve the community. So if there's anything that you have questions about or anything we can do, we're here for you, and I want you to reach out to me in my office anytime. Thank you so much for the folks at home. Thank you for the folks here. Have a great night. And for the folks that are here, we'll stick around if anyone has any questions. And have a great night, everyone. Thank you.